How do you do that with points?
I mean, if I were a mean person right now, I could say that most teams of China should take at least 7 players in their roster, so no travel issues can actually hinder them.
You are correct. For BTG, because of the issues China has had at international tournaments, BTG currently has the best strategy. Because if they qualify for BlizzCon, which at this point is reasonably likely, then even if one of their players is not able to come, guess what? They've got 6 more. They are in the perfect position. That's next level strategy. That is building redundancy into your team.
Exactly. I mean, if you can make it, you just got to get more players and break the meta. I like what BTG is going for, but of course we're just jesting. We're just joking.
Meta.
Exactly. We're just joking around, guys. Don't take our words for granted here. But we're gonna take a look at the first battleground of the day here, Battlefield of Eternity, a flawless record here for SPT, 6-0, whereas BTG, they still have a little bit to improve on, but fair enough though, they have only played a few games in this current season, so there's only so much sample size we can muster.
Well then, let's head into the draft. This was a BTG map choice. As such, SPT are taking the first ban of the day. Consistently, in their last couple matchups, they have banned Genji. Today, it's Illidan. They know their opponents. Even though he's only played it once, Fish is a bit too scary on that hero. They would much rather deal with his Ragnaros or his Sonya or something like that than be forced to battle out with that Illidan.
Exactly. Illidan has become such a dominant force, not only in China, but especially in China, where there are so many teams. You basically can't go without mentioning all the teams in China, and at least one of them, or one of the players of each team, is a godlike Illidan players. You have Chicken on RPG, for example. You have Infinity or Paradise inside of CE. I mean, Melody C, whatever, you name them, every Chinese team has got you.
So, first pick, Tassadar, nice and simple. Genji was still banned out, this time by BTG though, giving that Tassadar over to SPT. And BTG starting off with the Greymane. They're giving that Valor over to SPT, but they have shown repeatedly that they have been able to beat these double support Valor compositions in their last couple matches over the last couple days. The question is, can they beat one that is played at the level of SPT, or are they going to be in trouble? Or will SPT potentially flex it out a bit and bring out a Tracer or something like that?
Yeah, very well said. BTG is a team that is not afraid to face those double support comps. As you said, in that sense, they kind of remind me of Fnatic in Europe sometimes, which basically never plays, or very rarely plays double support, I should say. And they always counter the double support with heavy aggression, heavy pick comps that feature the variants sometimes, that feature ETC and Greymane these days. It's so cool to see that BTG kind of takes European elements from really established teams and well-known teams into their own strategy.
Indeed. So, Arthas and ETC not even going for whatever assassin, and that very much leads me into believing that the Tracer is the option. Yep. I would not hate to see that banned by BTG, or maybe even removing the Rhaegar, who would probably be the next best support with Uther already taken away.
Exactly. You can now basically make a call on either of the 2 strong remaining supports, Ariel or Rhaegar, as you said. Now, you could also argue, though, that they don't want to ban either of those so they can get the other one, just in case they want to play double support versus double support. So, it's going to be interesting.
So here's the question. So there's the question of, would they rather play Valor or Tracer, which are the next 2 highest options for the damage dealers here. So which one could get the priority here from BTG? With Illidan already gone, that is no longer a threat. So you've really got to work out what synergizes the best with that Tassadar, due to the Tassadar currently being one of the most highly picked heroes. Looks like they're going to ban the Valor, and that lowers the threat of the Ariel. They're going to ban the Ariel, sorry, which lowers the threat of a Valor, doesn't remove it, but it still leaves it open and appealing. And there we see a nice little Malthael ban from SPT. They're against they're running double tank. They don't want to deal with that percentage damage.
There we go. So the Malthael is out of the way. It would have been such a nice pick for BTG to get if you take a look at the current draft from SPT. Arthas, high HP, ETC high HP, completely ignores the armor that both heroes can provide as well. So Malthael really has made such a strong impact in terms of an armor-ignoring menace to deal with, especially when there's an Uther in the enemy team. We need to highlight that as well. A Divine Shielded Tormented Souls Malthael is probably one of the scariest things you could possibly imagine, especially if you don't have any counters to him that can shut him down afterwards the Divine Shield expired. So that could be a strong front line here with a Nubrak and Turiel, and they go for, you know, kind of a very support-esque front line. I mean, both of those heroes can provide some peeling for the backline. Both of those heroes do have a little bit of shielding and magic armor. So mages right now, I think, are completely out of the option for SPT.
Yeah, it's exceptionally unlikely, but I really, really like this Turiel here. For starters, Sanctification is just super good in general.
Yeah.
The scouting is lovely, it's good, solid front line with the Sanctification if Arthurs and ETC try to wade in, but it once again threatens that Tracer choice, because Turiel doesn't have to go Sank. If they want to run solo damage dealer Tracer, then a Judgment could be the correct option here. Judgment into Greymane full burst could be enough to just blow up a Tracer if she goes too deep. Or even if she doesn't go too deep, if she just stands there.
By the way, Tetra, very good point, by the way. We could always expect a Judgment, especially when there is no cleanse available. Now, there is sort of a cleanse available, but only after level 16, which comes in very late in the game. So, Judgment definitely an option, depending on how ham you want to go. But, Tetra, if you take a look at SPT's front line here, could we maybe see a stage dive ETC?
Quite possibly. There's only really, two interrupts currently on the side of BTG, and that is both of Nubrak's basic abilities. Cocoon is quite likely as well, so that will probably remove. Judgment's very unlikely now, due to the fact that they have forced SPT into a more AoE composition. That sort of leads back to it again, but it's still good with Sanctification, because it just means that you can stay safe while you get your dominance stacks up, so I like both compositions. I think BTG have played this draft very well. They haven't countered, and they were able to force away the Tracer composition, which was definitely being threatened. So I'm really down. I think they did that very well, but SPT's draft is solid and safe. The only potential threat is the Karazim, due to the fact that he has to stay a bit further forward if he wants to heal the tanks. Otherwise, the tanks have to go fairly unattended by the support, which is probably why they picked such stalwart ones. So, both teams, good drafts.
I gotta tell you, Tetra, that I would have loved to see a Kalthus on the side of BTG, because there's so much focus on the melees for SPT, and it's also a fantastic hero on Battlefield of Eternity, in my opinion, because there's only so much, or there are only so many locations you could potentially get ganked from early on, so you can play very safely, you can position yourself very safely. But I do not hate on Li Ming, by no means. I think it's a great preemptive caution measure against potential ETC mosh pit plays, so both teams, as you said, with a very, very strong draft. I do feel, though, that SPT has hit their comfort zone here with Xiangzhao on the Vala. Then we have Melody C, a godlike Tassadar. And I'm particularly interested to see who's going to play the ETC, Soap or Misaka?
It's definitely going to be interesting. They've managed to get themselves a solid draft. Both teams have good Immortal Poke in the form of Valor or Li Ming. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we are loading into game number 1 of day number 3. Let's do it.
You know what? We're going to stick to your house rule, Tetra, and the one person that talked last is going to introduce the first team. Let's go.
Alright, SPT on the left, Zhenjiao on Valor, Melody C on Tassadar, Misaka on ETC, Soap on Arthas, and ZZH on Karazim.
Whereas in red, we have the challengers coming out of nowhere. BTG with A on the Li Ming, 619 on a Nubrak, Fish on the Greymane, MJ on Uther, and ZJZ on that Turiel.
Nice variety of sprays coming in from BTG, and they do not currently have their own in the game. That will be coming soon. So, like I mentioned just before the game started, we do have some very solid poke from both teams in the form of Tassadar Psystorm, but he is going for the auto-attack build for the moment. which is fairly reasonable. We do see the Monster Hunter coming in from Valor. She wants to get those stacks. The Nubarak has found the entire enemy team, got a really good stun, but is almost certainly going to die.
Yeah, that was a little bit too aggressive in the scouting department here, but I think he gave his life for a good choice, because for a good cause, because otherwise more allies might have fallen. And guess what? If Li Ming is quick to clear the first minion wave, they might actually lose a little bit of XP, SPT that is, but looks like Arthas is going to be there in time. And that's something to keep an eye out for. SPT has an abundance of crowd control available with those two heavy CC frontliners, ETC and Arthas, the roots, the stuns, the knockbacks. There's a lot of stuff going on, and already seeing that Tassadar win for the Templars will auto attack build could lean towards a Force Wall build.
It could, and right now the aggression coming out of SPT is very BTG-esque, I would actually argue. They are rotating super hyper-aggressively, looking for some picks here. Fish dives in, dives out, decides against going too deep here. Playing the Grey main here, he's going for a cocktail build though. This is the first time we've actually seen him on something that is ranged. So that's already a bit of a change coming in for BTG, adjusting to the draft, showing that they are Fish is not their version of Chicken. He is very much capable of playing those ranged assassins. And both teams, they are running just a lot of self-protection as a noob gets knocked back by the face melt. But it's Block Party on ETC, it's Rhyme on Arthas, it's the Nerubian Armor on a Nubrak. The only person not going for their sustained talent, really, is Tyrael, who went for the smite damage. Even Li Ming went for Force Armor.
Exactly, so full tankiness here against the early game CC aggression that SPT can dish out. Now we see 619 going aggressively in here on Melody Seed, trying to force out an early dimensional shift for the rest of his allies to collapse on then, but he gets stunned by ETC in the process. CJZ going in though, and there goes the dimensional shift.
That Tyrael damage is actually pretty decent early game with that extra smite there. Now Fish putting some pressure onto Misaka, forcing him to back out. But the damage was done. SPT were able to do a big chunk onto BTG's Immortal. If they can now defend their own, they may still end up coming out ahead, at least for this first part. Big stuns by ETC. No one caught the Immortal stun yet. Tyrael able to teleport out. Barely. 619 caught the Immortal stun though. And it's Uther, the one who is body blocked and caught out of position.
Yeah, that was so well played by SPT, but also a little bit recklessly played by BTG, because they literally just saw SPT walk back, you know, take a sip from the healing fountain, or maybe go for the Hall of Storms. So they all came back replenished and refreshed in good shape, whereas BTG still had a little bit of lack of mana, still were down in health a little bit because they had just taken such a heavy trade. So next time, I really want them to see to use the healing fountains as well if you're below 50 or maybe even just below 75%, and then fight on even footing. And as such, SPT successfully managed to snatch away this first Immortal, although it's kind of weak, only 20% shields available roughly.
I am super down for how SPT is playing this, and it reminds me of the phrase fighting fire with fire. And the logic behind that phrase originally is if you put one fire in with another fire, they'll both use up oxygen and both burn out. The idea here is usually it's BTG, the ones being the aggressors, but SPT are pressuring them so hard that they have to be that BTG have to be a little on the defensive. They're using up all the time that BTG could be aggressive in by pressuring them, and it's a fascinating way to play.
Exactly. Fighting fire with fire, that's a beautiful metaphor you use there, Tetra, because it really seems that for the first time in this entire fall season, SPT wants to be in the driver's seat right of the get-go. They do not want to be the team that reacts only. They want to be the aggressors and who are basically in the driver's seat. However, I do want to say, though, that BTG has outstanding poke with the Grey Ming cocktails, with the Li Ming spells, that they can really punish and defend those Immortals quite well from a large distance without exposing themselves too much against all that crowd control that SPT has.
But they so far haven't been doing so. They've been putting on the pressure with their defenses. It's going to be better for Poke once they have level 7 to go with that stacking cocktail for Greymane. It's going to allow him to get a little bit more value, a little bit safer. So they will be more happy to poke as opposed to, we're not really gaining anything here other than burning mana. And for Li Ming, that's a problem.
Exactly. Speaking of Li Ming being in a little bit of a problem here, you see A getting knocked back. There's a little bit of a freeze. We apologize, but in the end, she gets taken out. There was nothing left for her to be done. The teleport on cooldown, and of course, knocked back against the wall. Now, Melody C, on the other hand, has a beautiful defensive ability called Dimensional Shift. Super good.
Super good indeed. Very nicely defended for the moment by Medici and Soap holding the line. They do now have Impalers, so both these towers will likely fall. MJ actually getting harassed pretty hard here. So only one tower will actually go down. Second one will probably survive thanks to the arrival of the minion wave.
Yeah, level 7 is of course now of the essence here for BTG, and I like what we see here. Greymane was thinking of teleporting back, and this time they really want to make sure that they're all in tip-top condition, in really good form, in both mana and health-wise, before this Immortal is now being tackled. Let's see. Also, the Bruiser camps are being taken by both teams. Always a nice thing to do before the Immortal spawns, so you have additional lane pressure and may force some of the enemy team members to go back and deal with those. Fish, though, is a little bit low in the Greymane. Yeah, he takes the healing fountain right now. There we go.
Yep, taps it up as the rest of the BTG move in to begin defending their Immortal. Misaka getting forced back, but he can wrap around. He doesn't have Crowd Surfer, but he's still got that extra radius to just put the pressure on. Very close to the halfway point. It's very much going to be up to Valor to try and finish that off. But you can see BTG positioning themselves aggressively, making sure that there's no chance of Valor getting close.
Exactly. Now, there's a kind of a cool variation in the Tassadar build from LADC coming in this time around. Look at the level 7 talent Tetcher. We see the Resonation coming through. So they really want to slow down foes standing in a side storm even more, because there's so much aggression. The Anubarak, the Turiel, the Greymane, those are all highly explosive characters that can dive in at any given moment. And if LADC dives or basically shoves and peels a little bit for the backline using Resonation, that's kind of cool.
So Karazim just 1v1 Greymane. So well done there.
Yep.
DDH really showing up today, as we do see BTG being forced back to the halfway point. They were baited into the middle of the map, where Valor then finished off the Red Immortal for the halfway point. BTG coming back after a couple of them tapping, and they're now beginning this defense again. But once again, the pressure, those poking ability for SPT could potentially prove to be too much.
Yeah, they need to make something happen, BTG that is, but their roster doesn't really allow it thus far. They need a couple of heroic abilities, like, you know, go for a throat, like maybe a judgment to finally dive in and lock a target down. They do so now.
Fish gets pressured and finally finished off by the Q from Arthas. BTG 619 trying to stay alive. ZJZ is completely destroyed. Tassadar is the one really putting on most of this pressure. 619, you still take damage in Burrow these days, friend. And he goes down as well, as does Uther. And SPT dominate that fight. Even though they were the ones who were closed in on, they got their heroics and didn't even need to use them.
Heavy damage and a lot of casualties here on the side of BTG. That teamfight did not work out for them at all, and there are many reasons why that happened, in my opinion. First of all, Li Ming remains fairly unimpactful. There's always a warrior to intercept her projectiles. Oh, speaking of Li Ming and A, not getting out of there alive anymore. I don't think he could have survived anyway, so he just tried to get over the wall. Not even that he could do, though. But Li Ming always getting intercepted. Arthas doesn't really care about those spells. ETC neither. And even if a projectile, even if an Arcane Orb or Magic Missiles land, there's a double support lineup here for SPT to mitigate and heal all that damage. Also, I think Greymane, there is so much anti-physics in here. The attack speed slow, the Earth Ally from Karazim. There is so much stuff flying around on the side of SPT that really shuts down melee damage coming in from the Worgen form.
Indeed, so he's really just stuck in that human form of cocktails, but you can see how SPT are positioning. Making sure that they're mostly not behind their minions. Right now, ZZH was the only one even standing where a cocktail could hit him. And as such, SPT continue to put pressure on. They even kill the side wall just in case Arthas can catch someone out. BTG, they're not even able to defend. Even Li Ming was staying mounted up for the majority of that defense. The Immortal only just losing its shield now.
Yeah, and unfortunately you can see that the playstyle that BTG currently has to play, because they're so far behind, doesn't really fit the comp. They want to be the aggressors with Li Ming poking against Immortals, for example, but all we see Li Ming and Greymane do is just staying behind super far and just trying to not get hit by any of the crowd control effects here coming in from SPT. Now look at the aggression though. The moment they turn level 10, they really want to make something happen right now. With a Cocoon, with the double invul from the Divine Shield and a Sanctification, BTG, they're on the warpath and they're trying to hunt someone down. But SPT, they know about it, and they patiently wait until it's their time to strike back.
Where's that Sank? 619 goes down. The Cocoon getting no value. ZJZ was soaking top lane trying to get them level 10, but they've gone far too aggressive with it. Divine Shield having to be used on Greymane. Tyrael sanctificationing as well, but where are you going to go from there? Greymane, the Divine Shield finally expires. He gets focused down by the Archon, as does Tyrael. And that's GG. They could just end.
I think they might just end the game. Misaka even throwing in a little bit dance party for Uther. If you played Warcraft 3, then you know what Uther party here means in Heroes of the Storm. I'm not sure if they can finish, though. Death numbers are very low. But they just want to get even further ahead. I mean, level 13 to almost 11 is quite the statement here. They're just going to secure themselves all the mercenary camps in the world. And yeah, SPT, man, how are they going to be stopped here? It's looking more grim and grim by the minute here for BTG.
Well, BTG are alive again, so it's looking slightly less grim. But it's still unbelievably rough at this point. SPT are in full control. 13 kills to 0 currently on the board. HGC just even holding his level 13 talent. Not sure what he can really adjust here. He just goes for more knockback.
Yeah, there we go. Going for the greater knockback here makes a lot of sense. In fact, we have seen a lot of W builds or mini W builds coming in from various ETC players here in China and in other regions as well. The Pinball Wizard, for example, a fantastic burst damage talent that blew Chromies out of this world yesterday. Still remember that one core moment. But yeah, so these are definitely the talents to be on the lookout for.
You see BTG moving up, clearing out those Impalers, but they're also going to have Fallen Shaman now, pressuring the bot lane with Catapults. So bot lane is the place where they have to be. They have to rotate down there and keep that guarded. Difference is, SPT are looking to cut them off.
Yep, that they will try, and I'm not sure if BTG will survive yet another Immortal, so they really need to look for a fight. They need to make something happen. Ideally not near the blue Immortal, though, because SPT will then have another powerful ally at their side, so they need to try to catch someone off guard. But at least they're trying to posture up here the way they should have done it right at the get-go, with Li Ming looking for those cheeky poke locations here. Look at those magic missiles, the Arcane Orb. That's exactly how we want to play. But for the very first time after 12 minutes, that's the playstyle that BTG is finally going for.
Yes, it is. And I am lagging. Give me a second.
No problem. In the meantime, BTG, they're trying to recollect themselves. And they're too far behind. They're too far away from 13. So I'm afraid they will have to look for a fight pre-13 or at least poke down the enemy mortal far enough so that they can survive another onslaught.
That tower being a lovely distraction from the catapults, that is buying BTG a little bit of time. But time is something they don't really have. They're not 13, they don't have any pressure on the enemy immortal, they're not really gaining anything from taking this damage because their shield on their core is about to die.
Yeah, they need to send 1 or 2 people back or maybe just rotate back entirely as a team because there's nothing they can do against those catapults. 3 already on the core. That is going to demolish the shields and eventually the core itself. And the halftime show buying themselves a little bit more time to actually get back into the middle. Now, their main goal should be to lower the HP of the Blue Immortal a little bit more. Maybe bring it down to 50% and maybe they can live to see yet another day. Looks like they're going all in though.
Well, what are they going to do? They can't defend the Immortal if it decides to go for him, and it's already happening, so their only chance here is to win the fight versus SPT, and then defend the Immortal with a favourable hero advantage. They're going to try and kill off Arthas here. Sanctification really nicely dropped this time, but who are they focusing? They were focusing Arthas. The mosh pit is interrupted this time. What are they achieving here? They're dropping low. They haven't even got close to killing anyone. Tyrael will be the first to fall. They dive onto the back, killing off the tanks first. Down goes Li Ming. Immortals running unattended, and that is going to be GG. MJ will be the last to fall. No one at SPT dies. 18 kills to 0. And that is going to be GG. They don't even need to follow the Immortal. They just head straight to bot, join their catapults to end the game.
Yeah, and even the relatively low death timers can save BTG this time because the shield and the core HP had taken damage before from the catapults, though there's only so much they need to do. Only Tyrael left alive, now Li Ming and Anubrak joining the fray, but BTG is well aware that they can't win this anymore. Beautiful game by SPT, playing admirably well here against a new and hungry team that played so well yesterday, but in the end, all their seasoned experience paid off, going for a beautiful draft and just dominating this game from start to finish.